Hey, Aspen Mountain peeps. How's it going? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Friday. I'm ready for this day to be done. We're just started a little crazy, and that's just the way it goes. I hope you're not getting too driven nuts by your kids being indoors. Uh, Mine, I can't get much work done in my house because my kids keep bouncing in and out because there's no school going on. So I decided today's live, we're going to involve my kids so I give them something to do, and yet at the same time it teaches you as well. So I've asked my two oldest boys, Jaxon and Enzo, to think of a plumbing question that they've always wanted to know and ask it, and then I'm going to do an answer on it, all right? So here we go. First of all, if you're watching live, type it in live. If you're watching this on replay, type it in replay. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You'll get notifications every time we come on once you hit that little bell. Hey, Josh, thanks for watching. Hopefully you're having a good day and you're not too bored right now. So let's go ahead and ask. I'm going to ask Jaxon first what question he has on plumbing. This should be interesting. Okay, Jaxon, we're flipping it around. Tell me, Jaxon, what is your question on plumbing?
If there's a broken sewer line to where you can't get down to it, how do you hook a camera up into the pipe and just go down?
So let me see if I understand your question. If there's a broken sewer line, how do I inspect it?
How do you inspect it?
How do I know it's broken?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question. Let's flip it back around and we'll answer it. That's a great question. The question was if there's a broken sewer line, how do I know it's broken with my camera? And that's a great question. A lot of times when we have a broken sewer line, it'll have water backed up. And as I put my camera down in there, I'll be able to go through the water. If it's a soft clog, a lot of times we'll be able to break it with our snake. And if we can't break it with our snake, then we usually put our camera down in there and we'll push it as far as we can, and then we'll locate where that's at. Now we have a locator built into our camera. It sits about a foot from our camera head, and it puts off a frequency. And then I have a locating machine that actually reads that frequency, and I can locate almost within about a foot of where it's actually at, where the drain's at. So if there is a broken sewer pipe, Jaxon, I'm going to flip it back to you. If there is a broken sewer pipe, we use our camera to locate where that problem's at, and then we give recommendations to the customer of, we probably have to dig this. Now, if it's just like roots down in there and we can get through it with a snake and we have cracks in it, we do have a new machine called the coating machine.
Yay.
That we can actually coat with it. So good question. Enzo, what's your question on plumbing?
You use primer and glue for anything else besides pipes?
That's a fantastic question. Do we use primer or glue for anything besides pipes? Now, he's talking primer and glue for PVC, correct? For the white pipe. Now, my kids have come down to my shop, and it's something to do to give them peace of mind and give them to being bored. I'll give them a can of purple primer and glue and teach them how to prime and glue pipe and fittings together. So that's probably where that question came from, right? So no, you don't use primer and glue on anything but pipe. But it's got to be a certain type of pipe that you use primer and glue on. Now, if it's the black pipe, ABS, they make a cleaner for it, but you really don't have to clean it. You just have to glue it. Because there are two different types of pipe in the way they're made. The primer actually opens a pore up, and then the glue basically welds the fitting to the pipe. So that's why we use the primer, okay? Why is it purple? Well, that's so inspectors can see that we've actually primed and glued the pipe. When we have an inspection done, the inspector can look down in the hole without actually getting down in the hole and see that there's purple on there, and he knows that it was done properly. Now, code books say that it doesn't have to be primed and glued if it's a drain line that isn't holding pressure, but because we test all of our drain lines with water and pressure test it, we use the purple primer and glue on everything, and my guys are told that that's what you use. I also like it because if I go to look at a job with my guys are on, I can see whether or not they've primed or glued that pipe. Now, do we do the same thing on copper pipe? No, but it's a similar application. Copper pipe, we'll take and clean it real good. We'll put flux on there, which basically is an acid that opens the pores on the copper. And then when we heat it up, it reacts to that acid and allows that solder to soak into those pores. So that's a great question, Enzo. Jaxon, do you have any more questions?
How does a toilet flush? I forgot.
How does a toilet flush? This is great. Let's go into the bathroom and we'll do this. We're going to do an example. This is my way of keeping my kids entertained while I'm at the office here. Okay, let's take off that lid right there, Jackson. Take off that tank for me. We're going to go ahead and show everybody what it looks like on the inside. So this is our nice Toto toilet. So the way that water flushes in a toilet, okay, is when you pull this handle. Notice how there's water in here, guys, at a certain point. When you push that handle, go ahead and pull it up.
It pulls a plug.
It lifts that up and allows water to escape. Now put that back up there, Jackson. That lid to cover. And watch out. We'll open the bowl. Okay. So basically, the regular basic toilet is a gravity-fed system, okay? So what happens is the water comes down through the tank and it comes in the bowl and it comes out these holes right here. Now Toto, yeah, I'm a plumber, I always touch it. A Toto is different because they have the Drake 2, which is what this is, and it's got what they call a cyclone or a tornado flush. And basically that spins it out of here. Now other toilets will have the rim around and have holes underneath that rim. So the water comes down in here and it fills up this bowl. It allows it to clean. And as the water gets higher, it gets heavier. And naturally that heaviness will pull it down through the trap by gravity. Does that explain it?
Yeah.
All right. Enzo, do you have any more questions?
Yes.
Let's flip it around to Enzo here.
I do.
What's your next question?
Do you use tape in plumbing?
Do I use tape in plumbing?
Yes.
What kind of tape are you talking?
Like duct tape?
Do we use duct tape in plumbing? This is definitely a Wyoming kid because baling wire and duct tape, they're like a common thing here. I remember when I was in high school, I actually fixed my 1978 Ford Pinto stick.
What's that?
That was shift. It's a car. The stick shift, I fixed it with baling wire and duct tape because that's how cheap I was back then. But yes, we do use duct tape occasionally in plumbing. It's usually to hold something up while we're putting it together. Sometimes I'll cover pipes if I'm doing like brand new installation in the ground or something. I'll cover pipes with duct tape so it doesn't get any dirt down inside it. So yeah, we do use duct tape. There's a lot of different tapes that we as plumbers use. Hey, Terry, thanks Keith for joining. Thanks Bill for joining. There's a lot of different tape that we use in plumbing. We use Teflon tape a lot, which seals threads together to where it doesn't leak. We use duct tape. We use electrical tape. We use painter's tape from time to time. There's a lot of different tapes that we use. So yes, we do use tape. Any other questions, guys?
Enzo?
Terry, you're not watching replay, man. You're watching us on regular. You're live, buddy.
So,
Any other questions, Enzo? What are you doing? Trying to be a gymnast or something?
okay, I'm thinking.
Anything else? Water heaters, softeners, anything like that?
What's a softener?
What's a softener? That's a great question. So a water softener is a machine that is built to condition and treat water. Okay? Basically what happens is when you got water coming in, there's minerals inside that water. Because where does our water come from? Do you know?
The sewers.
No, water doesn't come from the sewers.
Oceans. And then it goes
No,
like,
water comes from the river, the rivers and streams, which comes from the mountains, which has minerals in it, right?
Really?
Yeah.
So you just take a cup and just drink it?
No, you can't just take a cup and just drink it. We have to treat it first. We treat it with chlorine. So basically what happens with that is as the minerals are going through the dirt, it picks up these hard minerals, right? Like magnesiums and metals and chemicals that's in the dirt naturally. Alkali flats, like when we're driving to Little America and we see the white out there in the fields. You remember seeing that in the fields where...
It says Little America on those big water heater thing looking
The water tanks? No, out by there though, remember that little pond area down there where it's always like really dry and white?
Yes.
That's alkali. So basically alkali comes to the surface there. And basically same alkali is in our drinking water. So what a water softener does is it takes those minerals out and coats it to where it's not going to hurt anything and makes the water softer. Okay? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? These are good.
So, I have a question.
Okay. What's your question?
How do water heaters work?
How do water heaters work? What a great question, Enzo. And I've actually done some lives on this already. but it depends on what type of water heater you have. Now, in our home, we have a tankless water heater. So basically what happens... Huh?
I want to show them.
Nope, we're not going to show them. In our house, we have a tankless water heater, which basically when you turn on the faucet, it senses that there's open valve, and it turns the water on in the hot water heater and turns the flame on. And then the flame shoots down as the water's coming through coils, and it's called a heat exchanger. And that flame shooting down heats that up. And it shoots down, and this is how it's energy efficient. This is why I put it in the home. It shoots down because hot air is lighter than cold air. So as it shoots down, all that heat will return coming back up. And so it'll give it a double heating, and that's what makes it so energy efficient, okay? Now, on a regular water heater, a tank water heater, a gas water heater, there's a flame that sits underneath, right? And when that hot water, inside it has a temperature gauge, like a thermostat, right? Like when we check your temperature, it's got something like that. And when that water gets to a certain temperature, it kicks that flame on and heats it up. And as that flame's heating, there's a vent that comes right up the middle of the tank and goes out to the roof to vent out the bad gases, the burnt gases. And that is actually what heats the water. As it's going up, it's heating the water. It's transferring that heat from the vent over to the water.
Why are you looking at me?
If it's electric water heater, because you asked the question.
No, you did.
Oh, if it's an electric water heater, there's two elements on the inside that have electric current running through it. Okay? And that basically heats your water. And there's also a temperature thermostat on the outside, but it's just reading the temperature of the tank, and then it turns it on as that tank gets lower. Great question, Enzo. Any others? This is fun, and it's keeping these guys occupied and out of mom's hair.
Let's see. How do you install, our kitchen thing that, like, on one side it's like food, and you press that switch that...
The disposal? Mm-hmm.
How do you install that?
So a disposal is installed on the sink itself. Basically, we put a special basin on there, a special basin strainer on there, and then that has a quick attachment where that strainer attaches to the disposal, okay? And then we tighten that up, and then we put the pipes together underneath and hook that to the drains. And then we just plug it in the wall.
Oh, wow.
Easy enough. Hey, these are some great questions. If there's more questions out there, feel free to shoot them over to us on our email address, wyplumber. That's wyplumber@gmail.com. If there's any questions you want answered or any thoughts that you have up, or if you want to do the same thing with your kids and have a plumber answer those questions, I plan on doing that next week just to try to help out with some of the boredom going on inside the homes. Our kids are doing technology schooling, so their teacher will get on with them once a day and go through some schoolwork with them. They get bored other than that because they're not going outside much because of the whole virus thing. So doing that, we do exactly what we're doing here. We're trying to keep them entertained. This is a great way to keep them entertained and keep them out of my office while I'm trying to do work. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week.